Hi students, welcome to session 3 of reproduction in plants. Students, in the previous session we discussed about vegetative reproduction. We discussed that in some plants vegetative parts such as root, stem and leaf can be used to produce new plants. And this type of reproduction is known as vegetative reproduction, which can be done by natural as well as artificial methods. So in the previous session we discussed about natural methods by which many plants can reproduce vegetatively as well as we can say that asexually. So in today's session we are going to continue this topic of vegetative reproduction and we will discuss about artificial methods of vegetative reproduction. So let us start with today's interesting session and learn about artificial methods of vegetative reproduction. Yes students, artificial methods. Students, plants can also be produced vegetatively by artificial methods, and these methods include cutting, grafting and layering. So we are going to study about all these three methods in detail. So students, there are many methods which are employed to clone plants to ensure that they are a replica of the parent plant. Natural as well as laboratory methods are used. Like in roots, many plants and trees are send out shoots or suckers directly from the roots, and these suckers can be easily developed into new plants. Like in cuttings, soft or hardwood cuttings are developed into individual plants by growing them through the medium of soil or water. And in crafting new planting using buds or nodes is also a common example of asexual reproduction of plants. So the first artificial method which we are going to study in today's session is cutting. Students, it involves cutting of part of a stem, leaf or root and placing it in moist soil. So here you can see the beautiful diagram, a beautiful picture of the process of cutting. So basically this plant is potted and it is cut at slant. The stem or the root or the leaf is cut at slant with a blade. Now here you can see that this is the parent plant, and from the parent plant this part is cut at slant. After that, after cutting it, it is placed into another new potted plant or another pot in which all the favorable conditions are given with the sand, with the soil or compost, and then we can see that after some days or some months a new plant arises, a new plant grows. So this is just a simple procedure of cutting. So it is possible to produce new individuals from certain plants by putting the cut end of a shoot into water. Of a shoot means any leaf, root or stem, not the root but stem, because it is the shoot system, right? So it is possible to produce these new individuals or new plants from certain parent plants by putting the cut end of a shoot into water or moist earth, right, or moist place or moist soil. So roots grow from the base of the stem into the soil while the shoot continues to grow and produce leaves. In some cases the cut end of the stem may be treated with a rooting hormone to promote root growth, and evaporation from the shoot is reduced by covering it with the polythene or a glass jar. Even there are carnations and chrysanthemums which are commonly propagated from cuttings. So this is basically the procedure by which we can obtain new plants, right? So when it is potted, when a part of a plant is potted, after some time these stems strike roots at the base and they grow into a new plant. And this method is generally used for sugarcane, rose, bougainvillea, hibiscus, etc. So basically it depends that what type of plant is to be cut. Like in stem cuttings, herbaceous stem cuttings of plants like dahlia, mint, etc., they do not need any special treatment. In herbaceous plants, tender, growing and leafy sections make better plants. And semi-hard cuttings, like in hibiscus, they can be easily rooted. Like hardwood cuttings of bougainvillea can be rooted with good amount of success if root promoting hormones are used. And these hormones normally available, they are available in the powder form and they are applied on the lower end of the cutting. So roots are formed in greater number on nodes. So when planting a stem cutting, at least 2 to 3 nodes should be inserted in the planting medium. Like in hardwood cuttings, particularly to reduce drying through transpiration, some of the leaves should be removed so that transpiration does not occur that much at a very rapid rate. In semi-hard and hardwood cuttings, survival rate is much higher if cuttings are taken with a heel. So cuttings with strike roots are faster in a porous and well aerated medium which drains out water quickly but retains moisture for longer periods. Like rice husk, peat or vermiculite can be used to make soil porous. These are some of the chemicals with which the soil can be made nutritious for the plant to grow. So newly planted cutting must not be kept in complete shade because it needs sunlight. Some warmth is very much necessary because that is one of the favorable conditions for the plants to grow. So if it is kept in semi-shady location, warmth of sunlight will encourage faster. And watering should be done with a sprinkler attached to the loose or a watering can. Even in root cuttings, like there are stem cuttings, there are root cuttings also. So what happens in root cuttings, that some plants like curry patta or jasmines, they can be propagated with root cuttings, and roots of such plants, if cut at the plant end and the cut tip of the root, if exposed to air, will start growing into a new plant. How amazing it is! In the same way, other than these cuttings, there are leaf cuttings too. So in leaf cuttings, entire leaves are removed from many succulents and they are kept in moist sandy medium which sprout into new plantlets, or basically plantlets. So there are many such plants like herbaceous plants like African violets. They propagate through leaf cutting, and there are other plants which can be propagated through entire leaf or by planting leaf sections. So in this way, stem cuttings, root cuttings and leaf cuttings are very much in use, are very much in demand. These are some artificial methods of vegetative reproduction. So this was just one artificial method which we discussed. There is another method also called grafting. Now students, this is a very common method which is used in ornamental and fruit plants to develop new varieties called hybrid varieties. Now what happens in this type of plant, that you can better understand with the help of this diagram. Here you can see some part of a plant named scion, and this is the stalk. Now here what happens, that a bud or a cutting that has several buds called the scion of one plant is placed over the cut stem with roots of another plant called stalk. So these both are the parts of different plants, right? This is a different plant and this is also a different plant. So the upper part of one plant is called scion and the lower part of the another part is called stalk. So remember that a bud or a cutting that has several buds called the scion of one plant is placed over the cut stem with roots of the another plant called the stalk. And the scion and the stalk are then firmly tied together. You can see here they are firmly tied together, right? Then in the fourth step you can see that the stalk supplies water and minerals to the scion, and in due course new cells develop in the area where they are joined and a new variety of plant develops, right? So this is basically common in plants such as rose, mango, guava and many other fruit plants. This process is called grafting. So remember students that a bud or a shoot from one plant is inserted into a cleft or under the bark on the stem of a close related variety, and the rooted portion is called the stalk, while the bud or shoot being grafted is the scion. So the stalk is obtained by growing a plant from seed and then cutting away the shoot. And the scion is a branch or a bud cut from the cultivated variety with the required characteristics of flower color, fruit quality, etc. Right? Here we have just shown the simple plant part. So rose plants grown from seed would produce a wide variety of plants, and only a few of which would retain all the desirable features of the parent plant. So most of them would be like wild roses, not the general roses. And similarly, most of the apple trees grown from seed would bear only small sour crab apples. By taking cuttings and making grafts, the characteristics of the plant are preserved, and we can guarantee that all the new individuals produced by this kind of artificial propagation will be the same. So this is a very fine process by which new individuals or new plants can be produced. Other than this, there is one more process called layering, one more method called layering. So this is a method which is most commonly used in grapes, jasmine and bougainvillea. So in this type of method, you can see there is one such beautiful picture which is well understood by this given picture, this layering method. Now what happens that in this process, layering actually is a type of stem cutting only. But the difference between the two is that in normal stem cutting, the stems are cut away from the mother plant and then they are forced to root. In layering, first the roots are formed on the stem on the mother plant, and only after that the stem is cut off and is planted as the new plant. So plants grown from layering fruit earlier than the ones grown from seeds are different. Mature or semi-mature branches are selected for layering depending upon the species, that how it is grown, right? So basically a ring of bark of about 1 or 2 centimeter wide is taken out below a node. Here you can see that it is taken out below the node, right? This. And for faster and profuse rooting to take place, rooting hormones are applied on the place from where the bark has been removed. And then any such plant which is kept will develop into a new plant. So basically, in this process, a young branch is lowered down and bent towards the ground and covered by moist soil, forming a layer. A well better explained diagram is there for you, that this is the main plant, this is the side stem, that is the runner, which grows out from a bud at the base of the main stem. Now this is been taken, right? Here the bud is placed. This is the bud, this is the internode and node. Now, as we discussed, that in layering, a ring of bark about 1 or 2 centimeter wide is taken out from below a node. So when it is taken below a node, below a node, then what will happen? That new plant will arise when it is kept into another soil with all the favorable conditions given. So new roots, new plant will develop. This is one such example of runner. So new plants develop from the buds of a runner. So what basically happens, that after some time roots arise from the branch and they grow downwards, and the branch can then be cut off from the parent plant, and this is allowed to grow into a new plant. Right? So this is about layering. I would like to discuss one of the fact with you, one of the thing, that several thousand plants can be produced from a small tissue of a plant, and such plants are usually free from disease. So this is done with the help of advanced technology, and you will be very amazed to know about this technology. This is called as tissue culture technology. Right? So many such plants which are usually disease free are used to produce into new plants by tissue culture technology. So this is also one of the artificial method of vegetative reproduction. Right? So that was all about the artificial methods. Now let us discuss about the advantages of vegetative reproduction. So students, the advantages of vegetative reproduction are listed as that it is a faster and more certain method of reproduction, and sometimes the seed may not germinate due to unfavorable conditions. But in this case, new plant directly grows from a part of the parent plant. Now students, since food stores are available throughout the year and the parent plant with its root system can absorb water from quite a wide area, two of the hazards of seed germination are reduced, and buds are produced in an environment where the parent plant is able to flourish, but many seeds dispersed from the plants never reach a suitable situation for effective germination, and therefore vegetative reproduction has such an advantage that their seeds which are dispersed can be placed into new plant and can be placed into the soil which is nutritious when with fertilizers, so it can grow into new plant. Other than these, new plants exactly resembling the parent plant can also be produced. Thus it helps in conserving characteristic features of the parent plant. Even the plants which do not flower or have seeds, can reproduce with the help of this method. So basically, vegetative reproduction does not usually result in rapid and widespread distribution of offspring in the same way as seed dispersal, but it tends to produce a dense clump of plants with little room for competitors between them. Such groups of plants are very persistent, and because of their buds and underground food stores, they can still grow after their foliage has been destroyed by insects, fire, or cultivation. So those of them regarded as weeds are difficult to eradicate, since even a small piece of rhizome bearing a bud can give rise to a new colony, which is known as clone. So basically, asexual reproduction is extensively used by plant nurseries and horticulturists quite frequently to propagate plants in large volumes to ensure their survival. So this is basically the advantages of asexual reproduction, or rather we can say a type of asexual reproduction called vegetative propagation. I hope you liked today's session learning about the artificial methods of vegetative reproduction. So we will meet in the next session with a new topic. Till then, keep learning, keep enjoying, and have a nice time.